Welcome to Secrets of the Stars, where we explore the ancient knowledge of astrology, decode your unique blueprint, and unveil how the wisdom of the sky contributes to your life. I'm your host, Abby Lutis, astrologer, mentor, and sky guide. It's time to embark on a cosmic adventure of self-discovery and understanding why you are the way you are. Let's dive in. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Secrets of the Stars. I'm so excited to be back in here with another episode for you. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about all about the astrology of March. And let me tell you, March has a lot coming for us. March and April are perhaps some of the biggest months of the year astrologically. There is just so much going on. But before we jump in, I wanted to share with you a little bit about what I have been up to. I have started this new house sit, and there are 4 cats here, and the cats pretty much rule the house. It took a little while for the cats to warm up to me, but they are here. You might even see them poke their head in at the door. So that is what I've been up to. I've been working over on Rot Nest. I have been getting ready for a live astrology immersion that I'm doing here in Perth. So if you're interested in learning astrology over the next 6 weeks, come and join me in the immersion. It's going to be so exciting. I'm also heading to an expo on Sunday, so to be on the 2nd. If anyone is in Perth, come and see me for a reading at the expo. I'm super excited to be getting out and doing some more things in person. I have a lot of things bubbling in the works as well, so that is very exciting. Now, I've also been on my fitness journey, which a lot of you know of, and I feel like I've just turned a corner with this, which is super exciting. I have been consistently working out at the gym, and I think the thing that has really helped me is actually prepping my meals and really grounding in the food that I'm eating. So that is exciting. I have a little bit of an Achilles injury that I am working on rehabbing, because in about a month's time, I'm heading over to the Gold Coast for the Masters Surf Lifesaving Championships, and I'm hoping that it will be good enough to run on by then. So that is what is up in my world. But I'm recording this episode as we approach this beautiful new moon in Pisces to finish off February. It's a really great moon to ground into, and we're in this unique window where we have all planets in direct motion. But that's not going to last for long, and I'll show you as we jump into this episode. So on that note, let's jump into the episode, and I want to show you where and how this month starts off. So I'm going to be sharing my screen here to show you the chart, and you'll be able to see here we start off with all this energy in Pisces. This is on the 1st of March. You can see here in Pisces, we just have a mega stellium. There is so much happening. We have the sun. We're coming off of this new moon in Pisces. We have Saturn. We have Mercury. We have the North Node, and we have Neptune. And I believe there's some asteroids in there as well. So there is all this energy in Pisces, which is this mutable water sign. And ultimately, it's the last sign of the zodiac. So it can represent endings and things coming to completion and chapters closing. But Pisces energy is very dreamy. It's very romantic, and it is also about connecting with higher realms. Like I like to say, if we describe the zodiac as the cycle of life, it's Pisces is the sign that is done with life on Earth. So it's interested in things out there, and it's trying to call in perhaps guidance from the other side, or using the creativity that, really, where does this come from? We don't really know and understand fully how this all plays out. So Pisces as a mutable water sign, it can be this wild, creative energy. It's a water sign, so it's likely to be emotional. Um, I like to describe Pisces like the ocean. You know, it can be wild and crazy sometimes, and it can also be glassy and peaceful and beautiful. So, this Pisces stellium is having such an influence on the moment in time that we are at in the we are at right now. So, with all of this energy in Pisces, it's going to start to shift into Aries. So that's pretty much how the month starts off with all this energy in Pisces. Um, then we go into Venus retrograde starting on the 2nd of March. Venus retrograde is occurring until the 13th of April, and it generally lasts for 40 days and 40 nights. And it's all about taking stock of your feminine expression. This transit brings a focus on self-love, relationships, how you like to receive pleasure, how you indulge, your personal values, all the way down to your relationship with money. So we know that retrogrades are a time of reflecting and looking back. So it's a really good time to look at your relationship with yourself, along with relationships to others. Now, are you standing in your own power? Are you accessing your intuition? Are you standing on the stage of your own life? Are you focused on you? And if not, why not? So this is a time to take actions to bring these energies into your life. Now, with this retrograde starting in Aries, it's asking us to pioneer this area of our life, our own individuality, and really boldly step into our own independence. While it's also going to retrograde back into Pisces. And so that means that it's tapping into this energy of intuition and creativity, imagination and spirituality, and being able to draw those into our unique persona, right? So to me, I think this Venus retrograde might be more challenging at the beginning because Venus is in Aries to start with. And Venus in Aries is essentially in fall, which is an area that Venus doesn't like to be in. She doesn't have the tools available to do her job properly. But retrograding back into Pisces, she will feel a little bit more comfortable. So this retrograde might start out a little bit more tricky, but end with potentially a nice ending, a beautiful chapter as things close out this retrograde. Mercury is also going to be going retrograde, but I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get there. So that's the second. Then we start the new week on Monday the 3rd, and we have Mercury making a conjunction to Neptune. So this might be making it easy for you to think creatively. It's about connecting your intuition. And using that in your everyday life. I talk about intuition so much, especially when it comes to Neptune, but also Mercury, right? Because Mercury can represent our mind, and sometimes we need to let go of the mind and let our intuition come through. So there's messages coming through, so trust them and follow them. Ensure that you're being very clear in your communication because Neptune can make things a little foggy, a little blurry. And if you need to, spend time near water because this will help you integrate things that are coming up. Neptune rules over the ocean. And so whenever Neptune is involved, you can escape to the water. It doesn't have to be the ocean. It can be any type of water. And if things are feeling too much, it might just ease up for you. There's also a square happening on Monday. The sun makes a square to Jupiter. So this is an interesting transit because the sun and Jupiter are both positive or benefic planets, we would say. But a square is sort of tense energy. So whilst things might feel a little tense with if you put in the work, you're going to reap the rewards because ultimately Jupiter is a beneficial planet. It is giving us good fortune and opportunities. It might be a good time to, book in a new trip or an adventure, even though this might feel like a stretch, for example. It's a good day to be taking action, exploring new passions, and stepping forwards into opportunities where abundance could come up in your life. Now, also on Monday, Mercury enters Aries. So it makes this conjunction to Neptune, and later in the day, it shifts into Aries. So this is building on this Aries energy. We're going to see all these planets eventually shift into Aries this year. All of them, all of those ones that I pointed out in Pisces. So, whilst Mercury does station retrograde in Aries, this time is going to be about initiating conversations. New conversations will flow with ease, and you might even be in that energy of speaking before you think. So just take care. The mind might want to take over. It's a good time to start new projects, new ventures, and you might want to jump the gun as well. So just watch what is coming up. It will be easier to take steps forward with this Aries energy, but with Mercury going into retrograde, there might be something that you come back to. So then on Thursday, the 6th, Mercury makes a sextile to Pluto. So this is where you could get some new insights about a transformation or the project that is coming up for you or something that you need to move forward. It's a good time to talk these energies through if there is some sort of energy welling up from a transformation or something that you're trying to shift, or even just put pen to paper and journal what is coming through. Ultimately, the sextile brings positive energy. So that will be a good day. And then on Saturday, we also have a really wonderful transit with the Sun making a trine to Mars. This is on the 8th. Now, Mars is finally out of retrograde, so we're going to start to feel a bit more positive energy coming from Mars. And making a trine to the Sun, this is a really harmonious energy. So you could feel it physically, you could also feel it mentally. You just might feel more energized than normal, more uplifted in your spirit. So it's a good time to take risks, to take action, and to go out and do things, to put things in motion and do it with your body. If there's a new fitness routine that you want to get started, this is a great time. It's going to be easier to make decisions. It's going to be easy to cut and cull things from your life that are not serving your highest purpose. So that's a pretty nice end to the first week of March. Then we move into the second week and things are going to start to ramp up because we're heading closer and closer to eclipse season. But we see on Wednesday, the 12th, a couple of energies coming in. The first is a really beautiful energy where Mercury makes a conjunction to Venus. Now, this is a really beautiful, harmonious transit. You might expect a love note from a loved one, a friend, a beautiful conversation, a fun-loving connection, because Mercury is the sign of connection and communication, or communication ultimately, and Venus is about connection and relationships, and love and money and our values. So you might feel clarity about, a financial situation or a love situation or even a relationship situation that has been on your mind. It's a really good day to pull out your journal and write about what is coming up and write about what you truly desire, because this is beautiful and it is harmonious. Remember, Venus is in retrograde, so there is something that you're reworking or you're reviewing or something that is coming up. Also on the 12th, the Sun makes a conjunction to Saturn. So this energy might feel a little bit more constricting, but ultimately it's for the best. So this is activating structure in your life, how you have discipline, and how you work within the boundaries that you have. You might be feeling like you are able to be pushed to that upper limit, or you're able to sort of step through that threshold and into the new limits or into the new level, essentially. It might feel really challenging, but you know that it's ultimately for the best. It's about having personal power and authority in your life and really maturing into this energy, right? So people can fear Saturn energy because it's often said to be hard and challenging and restricting. But if we open our hearts to learn the lessons that Saturn has to teach us, we're going to gain something in the long term, because Saturn is the planet of time, and over time we learn lessons, and we can ultimately gain from this in our lives. Saturn can be a struggle, but as I said, it's the building blocks to live a long, beautiful life. So that's really interesting happening, those conjunctions happening on the same day with Mercury and Venus, and then the Sun and Saturn. So there might be a link in there with those two aspects happening on Wednesday. Then we move into eclipse season, and I'm going to pull up the eclipse chart and show you a little bit about this Virgo full moon. But let me tell you a little bit about it first. But so lunar eclipses, they happen when the full moon is essentially darkened, because it passes through the shadow of that the earth casts from the sun. All right, so it's not like other full moons in terms of rituals and ceremonies, and you just have to be a little bit careful if you are doing rituals and ceremonies, because eclipse energy is more dynamic than usual. It can create disruptions, it can be blindsiding, and it can bring sudden changes. But eclipse energy has been a little bit dramatized. So it could only just show up as a mere disruption. But if you think back to when, back in like the second, third century BC, when astrology was first coming into the world and people were just looking at the stars, we didn't have any TVs. Eclipses would be a time where the sun or the moon would be essentially shone out, right? And it was this weird phenomenon that people like didn't really know what was going on, because it's ultimately the sun, if we're talking about a solar eclipse, it's our life, or the sun in our sky is our life force. And when that suddenly goes blank, it's like, what is what is going on? And so that's why eclipses can be said to represent these sudden changes or disruptions. But let me show you this Virgo lunar eclipse, which we start off the season with the lunar eclipse. I'm going to pull it up here. All right, so here we can see this Virgo moon, and this is the eclipse happening here. So this moon is ruled by Mercury, which ultimately is stationing retrograde. We can see here. This doesn't actually happen until the 15th, but this has a bit of an impact. So the the moon in Virgo is it's an earth moon, so it can be very grounded, but happening as an eclipse, it might not necessarily feel that way. And with Mercury stationing direct, this is the more difficult time of the retrograde, right? Because it is Mercury is coming to a stop. Think of retrogrades like a pendulum. If we swing the pendulum forward, it then eventually stops, and it kind of has this hang time before it goes into the retrograde motion. You can think about planets in the same way. So Mercury is in a standstill, essentially, and ruling this eclipse, it could feel a little like communication doesn't flow, things like travel plans might go awry. All Mercury retrograde things will be tied into this eclipse. It's also the sun is also coming off of this conjunction to Saturn. So there is this element of constriction tied into this eclipse. Now, I think with this eclipse in Virgo, it's really important to be paying attention to our health, our fitness, our wellness. What are we doing to support our physical bodies in our life? Because ultimately, Virgo can represent our day to day and how we show up in our bodies. Where are you? Where are you providing a service to other people? This is a Virgo quality, right? It might be something that comes up or something that gets thrown into chaos, essentially. So what is it that what is it coming up for you? Where is the disruption coming? How can you ground into your truth and trust that this energy is only here for a season? It's not forever. And that's what we need to remember with all transits, that things, they don't happen and play out forever. It's just a season or a chapter in our life. Now, the other thing that is occurring in this eclipse is the sun is making a sextile to Uranus in Taurus here. So this could bring in a little bit more chaos, because we know that Uranus is the change maker. It likes to initiate the individuality or the chaos or the uniqueness within a person. And Uranus can also be responsible for disruptions. And it might be a little bit challenging with this Saturn energy, but ultimately the sextile should bring a bit more lightness about the energy that's coming in from Uranus. So that's a lot going on with the first eclipse as we head into this eclipse season. Then after the eclipse, as I mentioned, on Saturday the 15th, we see Mercury station retrograde in Aries. Now, Mercury's retrograde through Aries might bring some mental energy to whatever the Venus retrograde story is that's coming up that started at the beginning of the month. So it might bring like delays or confusion in your life, especially around independence, those Aries themes of the self. But communication and air breakdowns and like glitches in travel and technology, they're all kind of underlying themes of Mercury retrograde. Now, as I said, with Mercury in Aries, you could be prone to making impulsive decisions based on emotion, not logic. So just be mindful of, think before you speak, stay grounded in the present moment, and use this time for reflecting rather than taking sort of action straight away. You might feel like you want to act on impulse, but think about what is coming up for you to review during this time. Then we step into the third week of March, and things continue to be full on. So the sun makes a conjunction on the 20th, Thursday the 20th. And this is a transit that happens once a year. And it's really shining into our imagination, our creative powers, Neptune can make things idealistic. So it could be a great day to get away from the world, to dive into your imagination, to transcend the material world, to enjoy the energy of Neptune, the creativity, the romanticism of it all. But there could be illusions going in. Things might not be clear. Things could be confusing. And while it's a good day, I like to say with Neptune to put those rose-colored glasses on. Remember, it's not always going to feel like this, okay? So again, you can get to the ocean if things are feeling like they're not flowing. And this is not really a day to be in the mind, right? It's a day to be in creative energy or be in connection and doing things that you love and that make you feel inspired and creative, right? Because if you are in the mind, you might just find that you're confused. You might be more prone to addictions because Neptune rules addictions. And it might just like take you to the edge and beyond, essentially. But essentially, that is the last transit of the astrological year, because we see the sun move into Aries, which is the very beginning of the new astrological year. In tropical astrology, the signs are based off the seasons. So we start the equinox on the 20th of March and the sun shifts into Aries. So it's that first sign of the zodiac. And so that equinox aligning there is a time where we find balance. So there's equal daylight hours, equal nightlight hours, or dark hours, I should say. But tap into that balance in all this energy that is coming up with March and the eclipse season and the planets shifting signs and the retrograde. Just find this balance point or whatever it is for you. Balance is an interesting word. We could also use harmony, but balance is a great way to describe the eclipse because we have the equal daylight and the equal dark hours of the day. Now, Aries energy is like it's igniting. It's the cardinal fire energy. It's like the spark of the match. And sometimes I even say it's like ready, fire, aim, right? We shoot before we're ready. So it's about starting things and having passion and motivation and drive towards them. And this is all building to the Aries energy that is going to be ignited in our charts this year. Now, Aries is competitive. It likes to move forward no matter what. And so there might be this push-pull dynamic because we are still in the midst of these retrogrades with Venus and Mercury in retrograde. So, if the sun is illuminating the shadow side of Aries, things could feel frustrating, combative. It could feel angry or raging. So that's how the Aries energy can change and can be different. So after the sun shifts into Aries and we start the new astrological year, Venus has a few moments. So on the Saturday, the 22nd, Venus makes a sextile to Pluto. Now, remember, Venus is in retrograde. So Venus has made this aspect to Pluto a few months ago. So this might be reviewing something that is all about something that maybe you're changing or something that has come to light, that has come to the surface. This is the Pluto energy. It could be linked to a female or the divine feminine energy within you, but it's about receiving. So maybe there's something about rewiring your beliefs around money or love or the connections that you have. Maybe you're reassessing that. You could feel like there's a breakthrough that comes in or that, there's something that like an aha moment with this transit. This transit is going to happen again when Venus stations direct and move forward. So there's like maybe an ongoing story within this Venus retrograde. So celebrate the small wins and the things that, come to light here and know that it is all flowing in for a reason. Then on the 23rd, Sunday, we see Venus making a conjunction to the sun, also known as the Venus star point, which marks the beginning of a new Venus cycle. It's like the halfway point of Venus retrograde as well. So this Venus star point is occurring in Aries, and it's a time for reflection because Venus is in retrograde. So reflection, personal reassessment, major shifts in relationships as well, and in our values potentially, and in our desires. But ultimately, this is a beautiful transit. It's the harmonious part of Venus retrograde. And I think things are going to get better as Venus shifts into Pisces. So things might be illuminated when it comes to love, when it comes to your feminine energy, maybe how you're accessing that, maybe how you're sharing that with the world. So soften into the things that like are bringing value in for you and be open to receive these things that are coming into your life. Receiving is a Venus energy, and in retrograde, it's like, Venus is all about things coming to us and being magnetic. So where is that showing up in your life? So it could feel extra lovely today. Then we head into the very last week of March, which is also full of a lot. I think there's something happening pretty much every day this last week of March. So we start off with the sun making a sextile to Pluto. And this might be, again, something coming up because Venus just made a sextile to Pluto and now the sun is making that sextile. So something a light being shone on an area that, maybe you need to work on, or maybe something that's coming up from the depths, or that's coming up to be illuminated or to be seen. Something is becoming clear in this transformation that you might be going through. Then on Tuesday, Mercury makes a conjunction to the sun. So we just saw this with Venus, and now Mercury is coming through. So this is ultimately called a kazemi, and it's the Arabic term for being in the heart of the sun. So again, this marks the midpoint of Mercury retrograde. But I think the Mercury and Venus retrograde themes are intertwined, and Mercury is just bringing the mental peace, all right? So you might feel the things with the Venus energy, but the mind might take a few days to click in. So things could be clear on this day, even though Mercury is in retrograde. It's the better days of the Mercury retrograde. So it might be like an effortless communication, or a very clear intuition message that drops in. Something might flow, right? It's a good time to journal to see what is coming through. All right, then Mercury makes a sextile to Pluto. So we have all this energy moving over with this Pluto point. So this is on Wednesday, the 26th. And this happened earlier in the month on the 6th of March. So as I mentioned then, it was about gaining insights as a fresh transformation that's coming in. And that might just, be made extra clear on Wednesday, the 26th. And it's a good time to maybe go back to your journal and see what happened earlier in the month on the 6th of March, and see what was coming up for you. I always like to keep track of what is going on my days, because then you can map it with the astrological energy. Now, Thursday the 27th could be a little bit tricky because we head into this interesting energy where Mars makes a square to Chiron. So Mars, as we know, is the archetype of the god of war, and it is about forward motion and action and our physical energy, but it's also about combativeness and aggression and rage, essentially, and fighting. So when it's making a square, a tense energy angle to Chiron, which is the wounded healer, there could be something coming up about a cycle that you're trying to break, a wound that you're trying to heal. And this could feel like rage. It could feel angry. It could feel hard, because that square energy is making things a little bit more challenging, extra tense. All right. What might soften this energy is that Venus retrogrades back into Pisces, right? And so this is where the Venus retrograde story might get a little bit easier, because Venus is exalted in the sign of Pisces, where she feels a bit more comfortable. So things could start to feel a little bit more flowy with the Venus energies, even though she's in retrograde, like, something just clicks into place. So, allow yourself to soften into that energy. Take care with anything that is coming up with that Mars square Chiron aspect. And just allow things to flow as best they can in your life, because things are sort of starting to ramp up as we get towards the end of March. Then on Friday, the 28th, Venus makes a conjunction to Neptune. And this transit also occurred back in the beginning of February. And it's going to happen again when Venus stations retrograde and moves forward. So there might be this unfolding story that you're coming back to. You might have had a really beautiful moment at the beginning of February with this energy. And what is coming up now that is connected back into that storyline? So Venus responsible for love and pleasure, and it is aligned with Neptunian energies, which is also about creativity and mystery and illusion. So when that energy merges, it's like, don't push things too hard. Sit in the joy, sit in the ease, wear the rose-colored glasses, as I say. Sit in the imagination and the creativity, and get out of your mind, all right? But there's something that is connected back to the beginning of February. Then we have the second of the eclipses, which is a solar eclipse in Aries. And when solar eclipses happen, the new moon passes in front of the sun. And again, this is not like other new moons. They're not as solar eclipses are not as chill as normal moons. As I said, they can cause those disruptions. Now, this solar eclipse is happening in Aries, and it's the last of the eclipse series that's happening in Aries. And I want to bring it up on my chart here and show you what is going on. Okay, so here we have this Aries eclipse happening here, happening at 9 degrees of Aries. And we can see here Mercury in retrograde, Venus in retrograde, as I've been mentioning. But this eclipse is being ruled by Mars because Mars is the ruler of Aries. Okay. And we can see here Mars is making that square to Chiron, which I spoke about earlier. So, whilst this eclipse could be especially in Aries, it's a fiery eclipse, right? And this series of eclipses started back in the end of April in 2023, and eclipses play out in this 2 year, 18 month to 2 year cycle. And so this is the last of the eclipses that happen in Aries. So think about this sort of chapter of your life, and there might be something that is ultimately ending, that is closing off, and maybe there's new beginnings at play. It could even have to do with a cycle or a wound, as I mentioned, because Mars is sort of playing into this energy. Mars is also making some harmonious aspects here. We see a sextile to Uranus and trine to Saturn. And so there is a little bit of harmony coming in with this, with these outer planets. But, it still feels like to me, it's the closest aspect that Mars is making. You can see here at 22 degrees and Chiron at 22 degrees. So that's definitely playing into this eclipse energy. So don't be surprised if it's like a chapter closing, a book ending. And this is the general energy we are seeing in March with all this energy in Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac, and then all these planets shifting into Aries, the very first sign of the zodiac. So that is what that eclipse is all about as we roll to the end of the month. Then we head into the last day of the month, the 30th of April. It's a Sunday. And on Sunday, now, if we wanted to finish the month on a bang, this is how we would do it. So we first of all see Mars retrograde into Pisces. And so, Mercury is following that Venus retrograde. So whilst Mercury is not particularly strong in Pisces, it can make our mind feel a little bit more dreamy, a little bit more elusive or disillusioned, or a little bit more abstract. It is a good time to draw on imagination, on intuition, harness the energies that are flowing in. It's going to be more creative than logical sometimes. Think about what you're trying to say, be clear about what you're trying to say, be clear about messages coming through. It might just take you a little bit longer to get these messages in clarity. You might need to journal them down. Then Mercury makes a conjunction to Neptune. We saw this at the beginning of the month. So use it for creativity. Don't try and think your way out of a problem with this energy because Neptune is just going to make things really confusing. Then the month finishes with perhaps one of the biggest transits of this year, 2025, when Neptune enters Aries. Now, Neptune's going to be in Aries for quite a big chunk of the year before it does retrograde back into Pisces for a short stint and then moves into Aries, not permanently, but for the next 14 to 15 years. Now, this is a big shift because we don't see this happening every day. This shift of Neptune shifting signs happens every 14 years, and Neptune doesn't get to go into Aries very often. It's only once in every 128 years or something like that. We don't see this very often. It doesn't happen in everyone's lifetime when Neptune transits through Aries. So this energy I want to talk about the lighter side energy. It's about dreaming of new beginnings, right? Neptune represents and rules over dreams and visions. So, where are we creating these new beginnings in our personal identity? Where are we pioneering new spiritual paths, new creative paths, and blending our imagination, but also taking bold action forward, right? That's what this transit is all about. And it's going to be really interesting because Neptune has been in Pisces, the sign where it is at home, right? So this is definitely going to feel different. I like to say that it's spiritual warrior energy. So this transit could be wakening us up to fight for ideals, for encouraging individuals along with ourselves to pursue our dreams and have courage and take aligned action and stand in our higher purpose. Now, I'm really hoping that we see the disillusionment of the ego, because Aries can represent the ego and Neptune, diffuses things and blurs things. So we might see this dissolving of illusions and independence, but revealing a deeper interconnectedness between ourself and what is going on around us, and being able to balance that self-interest and the collective vision. So, there might be, because Aries is so self-focused, Neptune could come in and just sort of, blur all that and dissolve all that. This could be confusing at first, I'm not going to lie, because it's a new energy that we haven't seen. And no one has seen this energy here on Earth. We can look back at history and see what that says. But this transit is going to be playing out for months and months and months. So see what stories are coming up as we sort of step into the energy of Neptune transiting Aries, because it is different. It is something that we haven't seen. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the month. And, if we go back to this chart, I will show you here on my screen. We can see how we started the month off with all of these energies we started off with all the energies in Aries. And now as we shift to the end of the year, the end of the month, I should say, we do have more energies coming into Aries. But as I mentioned, there's all those retrogrades going on. So the planets are kind of moving back and forward. So it's like things are completing, but things are also beginning. It's a really interesting energy. It's an interesting time. Let's see what unfolds in our life. So there you have it. It's a lot. It's a big month. There is a lot going on. Ground into this energy of the Pisces new moon as we close out February and begin the month, and really come back to yourself. If things are ending naturally, let them go. All right. We sometimes, we can't control a lot of the things that are going in our lives. So we just have to allow things to happen. That's what the Venus retrograde energy is probably going to be helping us with, just allowing the release, the letting go. But know that that is making space for new things coming in. So there you have it. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. I hope you've found it insightful and it's given you a bit of insight into the energies that are coming up for this month and what it might look like for you. If you have planets and points in Pisces and Aries, this could be impacting you more on a personal level. If you don't have many planets or points in those signs, it might not be as dramatic and is impactful for you. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I'm going to have links in my show notes to my astrological course. If you want to book a reading, you can find it all on my website, abbylutis.com. And until next time, I hope you have an incredible day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thank you for joining me on this cosmic journey of self-discovery. If you have enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and share it with someone who you think would love it. Keep exploring the secrets of the stars, and remember, the universe has woven a unique story just for you. Until next time, keep shining bright.